Right, I'm working on this 2012 Nissan Altima. We're going to be fixing the leak on the transmission pan down here. I'm going to go ahead and show you what this looks like. Okay, so we come under here. Now you may have some plastic pieces that you have to remove. This one doesn't have any. Basically, it's not real bad, but it's leaking back here at the back. You can see kind of at those. Now you don't want to be you see this and start tightening on these little bitty tiny M6 bolts, because they're just going to strip out and then you're not going to be able to tighten it at all. Now you're tempted to just get it and tighten on it a little more, but if it's leaking, it's because the gasket's just not doing its job. No amount of tightening is gonna make it any better. So first thing we're going to do is get a pan. We got this 19 millimeter bolt right here, and we're going to get all this fluid drained out, or get most of it drained out. There's still going to be a lot of fluid that is going to be settled back in here when we get this loose, and we'll have to kind of like take all the bolts out and carefully start lowering this end here. We'll kind of leave a few down here. But anyways, we're going to go ahead, because you get a leak like this, and next thing you know, you're low on fluid, and then you're buying a transmission. So you definitely want to fix these leaks. Very important. So we'll go ahead and get this drained out here. Okay, and then another thing before you get started, you want to get you some of this CVT fluid here. And I ordered this from Amazon. I think it's like $40 for a pack of 6. So the stuff's really expensive. It's definitely cheaper to order it. So I think we're going to need about 5, but I've got a pack of 6 here. And I wanted to point this out. If you read on the back of this, this is like the same compatibility, the same as the NS3. The only difference is you're going to be paying probably $20 a quart for the actual Nissan fluid. It's not going to be any better. At least I don't feel like it will be. Okay. And I probably should have my gloves on right now, but and this is what your fluid should look like when it starts getting dark and brownish. That's not good. So we're going to let this drain and get as much as we can, and then we'll go ahead and start taking these 10 millimeters out. Okay, so I'm just going to get started on these 10 millimeters, and if you're lucky, none of them will be stripped out. Of course, it's not really going to make much difference for what I'm doing. And said you'll see the gasket when I take it off here. I'm very particular about the type of gaskets that I use. There's only certain ones I like. The cork gaskets I like. The metal gaskets that have like the silicone, those are good, but I'm very particular with any of the rest of them. They just, and like the metal ones, a lot of times you can reuse those. I know, reuse those a lot. With the other ones, not so much. So, the rubber ones I don't like. Those just kind of, they work for a little bit, and then I actually run the transmission with one of those, and I was not too happy because it started leaking out before it was even noticed. So it's very important, if you are going to use a gasket, that you get a good one. more especially all this work and everything required to fix the leak when you got a leak. So you sure don't want to have a leak. Alright, so I want to leave basically one little bolt in each corner, and I'm going to get all the rest of them for now. Okay, so I've got the majority of them out. I'm just going to slowly start taking the ones back here in this corner, and unfortunately it's going to drip on me here a little bit. And I've got one more back over here. We're going to get these out, and then we're going to slowly loosen the ones up front, because it's going to have quite a bit more fluid just in sitting in that pan there. So we're going to get a hand on that. We don't want it just dumping down all at once. Okay, so we'll just slowly loosen this upper part here, and you want to try to support your pan because it's going to bend this flange. If you don't want to be yanking on it. Alright, so I've got one more, and if you haven't changed your filter, you're going to want to do that as well while you're in here. It's held in by 3. Oh, I got my screwdriver here so slick with transmission fluid I can't hold on to it here now. But this one has been changed, but I'll show you where that's at. Alright, so now I've got it completely loose. It's got some locating pegs on there as well. So here is the gasket in question. Let me just get this pan out of the way for now. And this thing will drip for a good while. There's quite a bit more fluid just even underneath this valve body here, but this is, in my opinion, this is a cheap gasket. Yeah, they work for a little bit, but eventually they quit working. So we're not going to be using that. But let me show you on the filter here. You got 2 here, and you got 1 back here where my finger is. So you just got 3 10 millimeters. One of them is a long one, and it's got an O-ring. Pop it down. Make sure you got the O-ring. Pop your new one in. You're in business. So if you're doing this, you might as well go ahead. If you haven't recently, I just changed the filter on this, so I'm not changing it. So anyways, what we're going to do now is I'm going to let this drip. This is really not dirty or anything. It was because I recently clean this up, but it's not really dirty at all. But what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to let this drip, because if I don't, for my next step, it's going to mess me up, because we're going to be using RTV. I want to make sure that as much fluid has dripped out of this thing as possible, and then I'm going to come back and I'm just going to use some alcohol, and I'm going to clean this up really well. And I'm going to clean my pan really well and make absolutely sure there's no debris, no fluid left on it. Clean it up as well, and then we're going to I'll show you how we're going to do the RTV, and we're going to get this back in place, and we won't have any more leaks to worry about. Okay, so I've actually let this set and drip for about a day here because it just didn't want to stop dripping. I needed to get all that kind of drained out so it's not seeping down into my RTV. So I just went ahead and took some alcohol, went around this surface here a couple times. Want to make absolutely sure that it's completely oil free. Okay, so the same thing, we took alcohol, went all around this a couple times to make sure this is absolutely clean. Took the time to clean the inside and the magnets and everything here. Now I've got this, this is what I usually use for transmission purposes, but I have used the black, the ultra black, so either one will work. I'm going to be selecting like the smallest tip. I know it's kind of hard to get it through there, but you just got to take your time. And I want the smallest tip so I can go around each and every one of these bolt holes. Said it is kind of time consuming, but this is the way to do it. We're going to make sure we don't have any leaks. Now this is only like $6 or $7, you know, versus a gasket that's going to possibly wind up leaking on you if you don't get a really good one, but this will not leak. And if you'll take this stuff and wrap it in several Ziploc bags, after you open it, you can actually come back and reuse it. I have tried caps and it doesn't work. You really have to put it in a airtight container or it will start drying out on you. Okay, so like I said, we're going to get the smallest tip that we can get here, and it's going to be a little bit time consuming, but it'll work out. Right, so we're just going to take our time and go around each. And mainly, I may actually go around these little bolts with the small one, and I might actually select a bigger size because this is really coming out slow. But this stuff doesn't set up that quick. It is not going to set up on you anytime soon. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go around each of the holes. This is actually where the alignment dowel peg goes here. I want to go around each one of these holes with the small tip, and then I'm going to cut it back up here and actually come down in between here. That's the main reason I wanted the smallest tip, is because there's not a lot of pan right here where the actual holes are. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that on each and every one of these, and I'll come back with a little bit bigger. Okay, so this is where I'm at, and I've just kind of expanded this tip, and I'm going to come back. And I will tell you that I have messed this stuff up probably more than anybody. I have stuck my hand in it when putting them in, and you name it, and this stuff still somehow does not leak. So as long as you go around and get good coverage. See, I want to go right down the center here, making sure to meet up with that where I went around the bolt. So we're just going to continue on here, and there is more than enough in this tube to do this. That's all I'm doing. Okay, and after going around it, take the time to go back and give it a look over. Make sure you don't have any gaps anywhere, or where it's thin, where you don't have enough RTV. Just give it a look over. So this stuff can be quite messy. Sometimes the tube itself gets cracks, and then you do have to throw it out. Mine cracked where it was being bent, so you got to be careful with that, so that one will be no good. But we're ready to go ahead and start working this under the car and get it into place. and said you don't want to get it on your hands or your clothes. It does not want to come off. It doesn't come off clothes ever. Okay, so we're going to carefully get this up into place. And we want to get it set and get a screw in. Okay, so I've just put 2 screws in and just kind of loosely tighten them by hand. I'm going to start working the rest of them in. I've left the plug out purposely just to allow some air to get in and kind of help cure this out. Now I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of the screws in now. We're going to let this set up for 24 hours. Now I'm not going to be tightening this down. I'm going to get my little screwdriver 1/4 inch, and we're just going to take our 10mm and just kind of snug them up just a little bit. We don't want to be squishing all the RTV out. Said I've never had any leaks with this stuff except for when I've went ahead and torqued it immediately and then it leaked. Okay, and take the time to clean the oily bolts up. You don't want the oil, the transmission fluid mixing with this RTV, so take the time to clean those and dry them off before you put these back in. Said I'm just barely tightening these and just kind of flattening the RTV out, but we don't want to just squish it all out. And when we come back, what I want to kind of see is that it's nice and even. I'm going to get all these in, and as I just tighten it down, I'll know that it's flattened out nice and even. And that's where I'm going to let it set for 24 hours, and then I'll probably come back, and with these I probably won't torque them, but like maybe even 50 inch-pounds. And really, you don't even have to torque these. I mean, it's just a matter of them. This RTV would hold the pan on without these bolts even. You'd be surprised how strong this stuff is. But I've had them where all the bolts were stripped, or a majority of them, so I couldn't even get them tight. But this RTV will hold that pan, and as long as you can just get the bolts in there so it's not just flying off in the meantime, it's not going to go anywhere. So I'm just going to get the rest of these in, and I'm going to just go back and just, you can kind of see this up here, and I'm just barely snugging it down where it's just kind of pushing out the edge there just a little bit, and then we're going to let it set, cure for 24 hours. Okay, we're back out here today. I've got this has been setting up exactly 24 hours, so this is dried out here along the edges. Now, like I said, I just snugged it down by hand with this right here. Just went around snugging them, went around it several times, not real tight, and we've let it cure for 24 hours. And now we're going to go back and we're going to torque this to 50 inch-pounds, be sufficient. And I'm just going to start in the middle. Now, it will more than likely have a little bit squishing out. It's not uncommon for this stuff to like still in the middle to be a little bit. You can see it a little bit right there. So I say it's no danger if you let this cure for 24 hours. It's going to flatten it out, but never have any leaks doing it this way. And we're gonna go around this a couple times. I'm just torquing it with my little inch-pound. We're gonna go around it a couple times and just go 50 inch-pounds. These are little bolts. You don't want to overdo them. And once we get it torqued a couple times, we're going to go ahead and get some fluid in this thing. Okay, and I was very surprised with this pan that there was only one of these little M6 bolts that were stripped out of all these. Usually there will be several, you know, maybe 4 or 5, simply just because they got tightened up too much in the past. So when you take them out, you know, they're already messed up, but this will seal it regardless. So we got our plug back in. We're going to go ahead and see how much fluid we're going to put back in here. I'm expecting about 5 or 6 quarts. Okay, now we're going to fill it right here, this dipstick. Now there's a little tab you have to pop up with a screwdriver. I can't tell you or show you exactly because I've never found a Nissan this wasn't broken on yet. You can see it's already been broken in the past. There's just a tab that you have to push one way or another to unclip it from its spot there. I'll set that aside. Okay, so I got my long funnel set up there. Okay, so we got our CVT fluid. We're going to slowly start adding this. So I'm going to probably get about 5 quarts in it, and we'll crank it up and check it from there. Let's see how we're doing. There's one. Okay, this is number 5, and I would expect it's going to take 6 because that's what came out, but that's assuming that it was right before. So I'm going to go with 5. We'll crank it up here, get it warmed up a little bit, and then take a look at it and see where the fluid level is on the dipstick, and I'll show you that. But this is number 5. Okay, we'll go ahead and place this dipstick. Get it turned around the right way. We'll go ahead and crank the car up and get it warmed up a little bit. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start it up here. And we'll probably run it through a few gears here, just slowly. Let it kind of idle down for a second. And we'll just start running it through one gear at a time, slowly. Circulate a little bit of fluid. So we're going to make sure that we got the fluid pretty close before we think about taking it down the road. And I just cranked it up. The temperature is not going to be near warm enough to get an accurate reading. We'll have to get it warmed up a little bit here first. And while we're at it, we're going to go out there and most importantly, we'll check and make sure we don't have any leaks. Okay, so let's take a look under here and see how it's doing. So that would be very, very soft. It was mainly leaking back here at the back previously. They said you let this stuff cure for 24 hours. You do it right the first time, and you don't have to worry about any leaks. Let's see if we can take a look at this other side here. And you can see the screw holes, no leaks. And this one right here was even stripped, can't even get it tied at all. But no leaks. Everything's looking good. Now I had an issue up here. I usually never have these leaking. I had a little bit of a leak. I stuck a couple O-rings on that thing, snugged it back down because it didn't want to stop leaking. You definitely don't want to have any leaks, even a small leak can turn into a big problem. So it's looking good. I would say that's a fix. Okay, so we got it warmed up here a little bit. Let's take a look at this. If you can see, we're kind of just right there. We're not even up to that first little hatch mark there, but we're getting so close it's scary. You don't want to just go to dumping fluid in here at this point. So we're going to put a half a quart in there. What we want to do is get it where it's like in between these two hatch marks, get it right below this one up here, or right at it. Okay, I got another half a quart in here, and we'll let that settle just a second. We're going to go ahead and recheck it here. And like I said, it's important that you let it settle because you're not going to get an accurate measurement if you go to checking it and it's still running down that tube. And I will say that, you know, at least with this, you know, a lot of them you just have to pull the plug and verify that you got a little fluid trickling out. So this is definitely easier on this particular car. Okay, so I'm just still below that hatch mark there on the bottom, and I'm getting a lot closer. I'm going to go ahead and add another half of a quart and see where we're at, and then we're going to probably drive it. Okay, so now we basically got a total of 6 quarts in here. That's about what I was thinking. I'll go ahead and check it out here. Okay, so I'm still not come up much above that lower hatch. I'm going to probably get another quart at this point. It could be because I allowed it to drip for so long that a lot more came out than usual, but I'm going to have to go get another quart and see. I'm probably like really close, but we've got 6 quarts in it. It's still not exactly where I want it to be. I want a little bit more. I'm probably going to add like a quarter of a quart at a time, but it's a little bit above, but I want it to be closer up to this top hatch. So I'm going to get a little bit more, and I think what I'm going to do though is drive it actually a little bit right now and get it warmed up a little better and get it on make sure that I've got this thing absolutely level, and then I'm going to check it again. Okay, at this point I drove it down the road a little bit, about 5 minutes, brought it back, got it perfectly level, and I'm still low. I'm a little bit lower than what I was. I went ahead and added another half a quart, and I'm just going to take it for another drive and come back and see where I'm at here, give it time to settle. It actually feels nice riding around this thing. It's really humid today. Okay, so it seems like 6.5 quarts is going to do it. Let me show you where I'm at. You can see that it's right up at the top of that hatch. We got 6.5 quarts in there. I'm going to call that good. Alright, so that's going to do it on this video on fixing this leaking oil or transmission pan down here. And so that RTV does a really good job. It wasn't all that difficult. It just a little bit time consuming, you know, allowing it time to cure out and everything. But I got under there and checked with a flashlight. Absolutely no leaks whatsoever. So I'm happy with it, and it's driving really good. So anyways, I hope that can help somebody out. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to leave a comment, please do so. As always, I invite you to subscribe, and I thank you for watching.